Right, good evening. My name is Kyle Cooper, and I'm the president of the Chicago Police Board. I'm now calling the board's November 21st public meeting to order. We thank CAN-TV, as always, for covering this meeting. It will be live streamed at cantv.org and on the CAN-TV app and televised on CAN-TV 27. Along with myself, we have the following board members attending in person this evening. Vice President, Ms. Paula Wolf, Member Claudia Badillo, Member Stephen Block, Member Mariley Cusack, and Member Justin Terry. Board Member Katie Liss is unable to attend this meeting in person tonight, but she would like to attend remotely. Is there a motion to permit her to do so?
So moved, Paula Wolf. Second, Ron Cusack.
All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye. Aye. Seeing all hands raised, that motion passes. Board Member Andreas Safakis is unable to attend this evening's meeting because he is volunteering to assist with hurricane cleanup in North Carolina. And so we just want to go on the record to thank him for his efforts helping out the communities that have been affected by that natural disaster. In addition to the police board members, we have the following city officials here with us tonight. We have the Chief Administrator of the Civilian Office of Police Accountability, Ms. Andrea Kirsten. We have the Deputy Inspector General for Public Safety, Ms. Deborah Richardson. We have the Chief of the Chicago Police Department's Bureau of Internal Affairs, Yolanda Talley. We do. The General Counsel to the Superintendent, Mr. Scott Spears, is here. And we also have, as always, the Police Board's Executive Director, Mr. Max Caproni, along with us. Before we proceed to the items on the agenda, we will observe a moment of silence to honor the service and memory of Police Officer Enrique Martinez, who was tragically shot and killed in the line of duty on November 4th. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the drafts of the minutes of the board's public and closed meetings held on October 17th?
Paula Wolf, so moved. Second, Ron Cusack.
All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Having heard or seen all hands raised, that motion passes. To let members of the public know, the next meeting of the police board is scheduled to take place on Thursday, December 19th at 7:30 p.m. That meeting will be held where this meeting is, which is at the Chicago Public Safety Headquarters. As for this list of scheduled meetings for 2025, the board has set a list of regular monthly public meetings, and these meetings will be posted on the board's website, which is chicago.gov/policeboard. And as in past years, the board will meet on the third Thursday of the month, except for June, which coincides with the Juneteenth holiday, and the meetings will begin as they have in 2024 at 7:30 p.m. The next item on the agenda is closed meetings. The police board meets in executive session to discuss various matters. Those discussions are closed to the public as authorized by section 2C1, 4, 11, and 21 of the Illinois Open Meetings Act. Information on matters discussed in the executive sessions is included in the minutes of the meetings posted on our website. Is there a motion to close a series of future executive sessions as authorized by these sections of the Open Meeting Act?
So moved, Paula Wolf. Second, Ron Cusack.
All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Seeing all hands raised or hearing all ayes, that motion passes. The next item on the agenda is an update on the arbitration case. Bear with me for 1 second. Oh, we're going to do a presentation. Yeah, sorry. Before we get to an update on arbitration, we have a presentation that will take place before everybody. And we have Tim. Got it. Yeah. Thanks. We're pleased to this evening to have with us Tim Daly, the program director at the Joyce Foundation, who will be giving a presentation called Philanthropic Support for New Workforce Allocation Study for the Chicago Police Department and other consent decree related projects. And Quentin Williams is joining Tim. So Quentin and Tim, thank you very much for taking the time to present to us tonight.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Is that seemingly working for everybody?
We can hear you.
Fantastic. I probably don't need a mic, but for those, thank you for the kind invitation and opportunity to speak at tonight's meeting. I'm very grateful for the invitation. And as you noted, my name is Tim Daly. I'm the director of the Gun Violence Prevention and Justice Reform Program at the Joyce Foundation. For those that are less familiar, the Joyce Foundation is a private philanthropy that is focused on economic mobility and racial equity for the next generation in the Great Lakes region for the last 75 or so years. And formerly the board vice president. Ms. Wolf used to be on our board, so it's good to see you here today. I'm joined today by my colleague, Dr. Quincy Williams, who is a senior program officer also at the foundation. Thank you so much. For the last 30 years, the Joyce Foundation has had what is now known as the Gun Violence Prevention and Justice Reform Program, and for the last 7 of those years, we've had a particular focus on policing reform. We're pleased to provide this update on work that philanthropy has been supporting around a new workforce allocation study and other consent decree related projects. But I do want to note that the work that we plan to discuss tonight is for more than just the Joyce Foundation. Rather, it is the byproduct of a significant number of coordinated and highly invested partners, both in the public and private sectors, from over the last 18 months. Among those funding partners, they include, but are not limited to, Chicago Cred, the Civic Committee, Crown Family Philanthropies, the Pritzker Pucker Family Foundation, the MacArthur Foundation, and Arnold Ventures. And other key partners that have provided significant support and contributions include Impact for Equity, the Illinois Justice Project, the Civic Consulting Alliance, the Partnership for Safe and Peaceful Communities, and the Civic Federation. Of course, there's any number of governmental partners that we have been so gratified to work with, starting with and including, of course, the Mayor's Office for Community Safety, the Community Commission for Public Safety and Accountability, members of this police board, the Office of the Inspector General, and of course, the Illinois Attorney General's Office. I certainly could not leave out the very significant and ongoing contributions of the Chicago Police Department, and in particular the superintendent, his dedicated team led by Dana O'Malley, and of course Scott Spears, who played an integral part in a number of the projects we'll talk about. So let's jump in. In the summer of 2022, the Joyce Foundation again revisited the work that we had been doing on policing reform, and we produced this table, which at the time only went through, I think, IMR 7 thereabouts. And one of the things that we did was we retained a consultant so that we could organize with our philanthropic partners to better understand the current state of the landscape as it related to consent decree implementation. We were concerned that we were at a moment in time where more investment and energy was needed to help jumpstart that work. One of the things that we and a number of our partners did was organized a forum in May of 2023 to really focus on this very topic. We also commissioned additional research from 21CP Solutions, led by former police chief and superintendent Kathy O'Toole and Charlie Beck, to better understand how philanthropy and other partners could be involved in advancing the implementation of the consent decree here in Chicago. Of the things that we really focused on at the time was, of course, topics that you are all very familiar with. The workforce allocation study, which paragraph 356 of the consent decree required. And also that of trying to better understand what the community policing strategy was of the department, something that the monitor had indicated in a number of her IMRs saying that this was needed. So after 18 months of continuous engagement and back and forth, I was joking with Scott before today. I'm sure he is happy to no longer receive any number of emails from me at all hours of the day about this. We're so pleased that just yesterday, the city of Chicago, along with the Chicago Police Department, issued a press release that outlined 4 key projects that we wanted to brief you on tonight, which we believe will really help lay the foundation for additional advancement of consent decree implementation. The first of those projects, as you know, is the workforce allocation study. On November 1st, Matrix Consulting Group, through a funding arrangement at the Civic Committee through the Commercial Club of Chicago's foundation, began work on a year-long project to develop a new workforce allocation study for the department, something that was required by the consent decree and by city ordinance. We expect or hope that the project will be completed by the end of October of 2025. And importantly, through negotiations in the lead up to this project, we know that all of the work product or the final report, as well as the model that is going to be created through this study, will be made publicly available, in fact, 10 days after the completion of the project. In addition, the idea of developing a unified community policing strategy was also a project among the four that all of us have been collectively working on. Managed by Civic Consulting Alliance and also involving 21CP Solutions and others, they are currently developing a single vision for what community policing could look like for the department. Third was the 911 calls for service analysis to better understand what the 911 calls were saying and how the city could be best prepared to respond to them. And to tie all of these together, of course, is ensuring that we are centering community engagement. When these projects came together, CPD, along with CCA, solicited interest from community-based organizations to determine who could support that community engagement effort. After an open application period, more than 30 community-based organizations applied, and a wide-ranging selection committee ultimately landed, which Quentin served on, ultimately recommended these 8 organizations to proceed involved with the project. They've already been hosting community engagement events. They've had 9, in fact, so far, including 1 tonight, and they have a series of events planned for the rest of this year and throughout 2025. All in service of gaining input into the other 3 projects that we just talked about. Of course, as all of this is happening, we are now currently, I don't want to say we are commemorating the 5-year anniversary of the beginning of the consent decree. And just yesterday, ProPublica and WTTW released their own analysis. So while all this work has been happening and all the great work of the department and efforts by others, people still wonder, is progress being made and is it possible? And the reality is that just earlier this week, the Independent Monitor came out with her most recent report, IMR number 10, which showed that still only 9% of the consent decree has been fully implemented. So for us, we balance our hope and optimism with the 4 projects that we just talked about, with the realization that there is still quite a bit more work to do in order to fully move advancement of the implementation of the consent decree. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions that you may have about any of these projects and look forward to any discussion.
Thank you, Tim and Dr. Williams. Any questions from anybody on the dais?
Could you talk a little bit about the investment that your group is making and what you intend to leverage out of that?
Yeah, thank you, Paula, for that question. For these 4 projects, it is costing private philanthropy about $2.3 million or so in order to execute these projects over a year. What we believe, or what we know will happen, is by virtue of these projects, there will be a pathway, we think, to another series of implementation steps. Those steps will be expensive, and they will require a significant amount of staff power and additional investment on behalf of the city. I think that's why it makes this current debate about current staffing levels available to the implementation of the consent decree particularly relevant. Because if the workforce allocation study proceeds as hoped and expected, it will provide a pathway for how staff could be reallocated. But staff will be needed in order to achieve or execute on those recommendations.
Tim, could you talk a little bit more about the community policing aspect of one of the projects that you guys are working on, just to give a little bit more details as to what that looks like, who you've been speaking with, and what have been the results of some of those conversations? Yeah.
For us, this project was particularly important because there has not been a singular community policing strategy in the city. As many in this room know, there have been several strategies. There have been the CAPS strategy. We have been financially supporting for many years a pilot program called the Neighborhood Policing Initiative that was supported by NYU. And there are many other different types of community policing strategies. So at minimum, you start from a place where there are many, if not competing, community policing strategies being deployed. This superintendent, who deserves, I think, a lot of credit for initiating a number of the projects that we talked about today, he has articulated a particular vision of how he believes CPD officers should be operating in community. What we also believe, though, is that we've learned a lot from the community policing strategies that have been deployed over time, like NPI, for example. And what the purpose of this project will be to try and unpack those lessons learned from those community policing projects, combine that with the vision of the superintendent, and then find a way to deploy it throughout the entire rank and file. It's going to be really challenging. And that is the reason why 21CP Solutions, who is led by a number of the leading law enforcement leaders from across the country, is involved with the project. Because what they're going to try and do is take everything I just said and figure out what are the national best practices that have been utilized to try and deploy a department-wide community policing strategy like NPI? And how do you then take those principles and apply them? So how that project has progressed, we have not been involved in the immediate conversations with CPD. That's been one of the projects that the Civic Consulting Alliance has been leading. They have been working very closely with the superintendent to very clearly understand what his vision is for community policing. Additionally, they have then been working with a number of the stakeholders within the department to understand how they view community policing and where there are opportunities to advance that strategy. And now we're at a point where 21CP Solutions research and technical assistance is going to be layered into that initial information gathering. Within, I'm guessing, 6 or 8 months or so, we will start to see, I think, more documentation about how all of those pieces are coming together. That will also be informed by the community engagement that is still ongoing. But we expect that the third or fourth phase of that will really come into focus by mid-year next year.
Yeah, I just have a very quick question. Is the goal of this entire project to increase the, the percentage of the CPD complying with the consent decree? Was that the entire point, or is that a great byproduct of what you guys are trying to do?
It's a great question. I think we initially, when we started this process back in the summer of 2022, said, okay, what do we need to do to implement the consent decree? We were quickly reminded that that's not the goal. The goal is, how is it that we can achieve meaningful and lasting policing reform in the city? It happens to be that the consent decree, we believe, is an important and powerful tool to be able to get to that point. And then when we rolled that back further and said, well, what were the foundational projects that could help us, all of us, and in particular department, advance that? That's how we landed on those particular projects. So it absolutely is a series of steps, I think, to achieve our ultimate goal, and I think all of our ultimate goal of achieving lasting and meaningful reform.
Time for one more.
Of course.
So the workforce allocation topic has come up a number of times and is seemingly controversial. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that is and what you think it's going to do and why is it going to work this time?
Yeah. It's a great question. The workforce allocation study, put simply, is how do you deploy the people throughout the city in a way that effectively addresses public safety. That study has been a priority of many staff people within CPD and superintendents for several years, but it has been challenging to come by. Number one, the process for the city to pursue a contract even, with a vendor is challenging in and of itself. Second, there are many competing demands upon the city and CPD's budget. And so I think those combined with some other factors bog down this foundational element of the start or the initiation of this project. What we hope to have come from it. I think the reality is that the answer that many workforce allocation studies usually say is you need more police. We don't think that that is going to be a viable option given all the things that we know about the budget situation here in the city and where people are evolving in their views about reimagining public safety. So why we think this is going to be particularly important is that we believe that the Matrix Consulting Group, who's done similar projects for the city of San Francisco, for the city of Los Angeles, will help develop a tool that will allow the Chicago Police Department and their team, whether it be now or in the future, to say, okay, based on the resources we have available, how can we deploy them throughout the city so that they are going to where they are needed? And that's where I think it could lead to some tough decisions, right? There are a lot of folks who are very comfortable with the number of officers perhaps they have in their community. And what this study will say, we think very clearly through the evidence and the materials it pulls together is, well, actually, we probably need to allocate them in these ways given our fiscal realities. And so I think that that's why that tool the model that it will be delivered will be as important as the report itself, because that will live long, or that will live long past the report itself.
Thank you very much, Tim and Dr. Williams. This is very, very informative. We appreciate the time this evening.
Yeah, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
The next item on the agenda is a report on the status of the litigation on the arbitrator's ruling regarding police disciplinary cases, including an update on the status of the cases currently before the board. As I've noted at past several meetings, the Fraternal Order of Police, which represents Chicago police officers below the rank of sergeant, has appealed two rulings that are part of the March 21st Cook County Circuit Court decision that allows officers to choose to have the most serious cases of police discipline heard by an arbitrator rather than this police board. The union is challenging the rulings that arbitration proceedings be open to the public and that accused officers may be suspended without pay while the arbitration case is pending. The FOP filed its opening brief with the Illinois Appellate Court in late July, and after receiving two extensions, the city filed its response brief on Halloween, October 31st. The due date for the FOP's reply brief has been extended to December 5th, or 2 weeks. It therefore appears that it will not be until sometime until next year that the appellate court hears oral arguments, should they choose to in this case, and/or renders a decision. In the meantime, there are 13 cases before the police board in which the accused officer has requested arbitration, and those cases will remain on hold, and there will be no arbitration hearings until the establishment of a public arbitration process. And there will also be no police board hearings in these cases without the consent of the accused officer. As I reported last month, however, 4 disciplinary cases against FOP members were filed with the police board in early October. All 4 cases stem from investigations by CPD Internal Affairs. 3 cases involve a positive drug test, and 1 case involves an alleged residency violation. Information on these cases is posted on the board's website, and 2 of the accused officers from these cases have elected to have a hearing before the police board. 1 has chosen public arbitration, and 1 has not yet been served with charges. The board's website, chicago.gov/police board, will continue to keep the public informed of any new developments in the ongoing litigation and of the status of the disciplinary cases currently pending before the board. I encourage members of the public to check the news and police discipline section of our website for the most up-to-date and current information. As a result of the circuit court's ruling, there are no current cases on the agenda tonight. The next item we have on our agenda is appeals by disqualified applicants to become police officers. When a person who applies to become a Chicago police officer is disqualified and removed from the eligibility list due to the results of a background investigation, that person has a right to appeal that decision to the police board. The board, as authorized by the Open Meetings Act, has discussed in a closed meeting several appeals. We will now take final action on those appeals. Is there a motion to affirm the disqualification decision for the following appeals? 24AA47, 48, and 50 through 53, and reverse the disqualification decision for appeal number 248849, and finally to dismiss appeal number 24AA44 because it was filed after the 60-day filing mandated by the municipal code.
Riley Cusack, second.
I will now call on the members of the board for their votes. Vice President Wolf,
Aye.
Board Member Badillo,
Aye.
Board Member Block,
Aye.
Board Member Cusack,
Aye.
Board Member Liss,
Aye.
Board Member Terry,
Aye.
and I also vote in favor of the motion. The motion passes. The written decisions of these appeals will be entered as of today's date, sent to the parties, and as always, promptly posted on the board's website. At this time, I would now ask the Chicago Police Department, and I believe Chief Talley is giving the report today.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening. This has been a difficult month for the Chicago Police Department as we mourn the loss of Officer Enrique Martinez. Officer Martinez was a dedicated officer who stood between danger and the people of Chicago. Every time he put on his uniform, he worked to save lives and protect our residents and families from violence. We honored his sacrifice and his service as we laid him to rest on Monday. We want to thank everyone who reached out to offer condolences and support, as our department grieved the loss of our hero. I know some of you here were also in the 6th District for the prayer vigil the day after the shooting, and it means so much to our officers knowing the people they protect are there for them as well. The Martinez family has shown strength and dignity in the face of tragedy, and I ask that you continue to pray for them. Their hearts are broken, and we will continue to be there for them as they get used to this new normal without Enrique. We also honored the life of fallen officer Samuel Jimenez this past weekend during a street dedication at the 2nd District where he was assigned. Officer Jimenez was killed in the line of duty on November 19th, 2018, after bravely responding to the Mercy Hospital shooting, where an armed offender also fatally shot Dr. Tamara O'Neill and pharmacy resident Dana Less. Part of honoring our fallen heroes and the victims who have lost their lives to violence includes continuing to do everything we can to make our city safer and take violent offenders off our streets so that no more families have to experience what these families have gone through. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Talley. I will now ask the Chief Administrator of COPA to give her report.
Thank you and good evening. First, I'd just like to echo the sentiment of President Cooper, and I'm sure of all residents of the city of Chicago in paying our respects to fallen officer and really wanting to express our heartfelt sympathy to all of the men and women of the Chicago Police Department. Policing is a difficult job requiring many, many sacrifices, and the loss of an officer in the line of duty is certainly the most significant sacrifice possible. So we appreciate, respect, and honor his legacy. With respect to COPA's activities, every month they come before the police board just to sort of report out on the activities of the preceding month. So in the month of October, COPA received 395 different complaints and notifications. Of those, 84 were retained under our office per our ordinance and our jurisdictional mandate. As we see typically month over month, 41% of those, which is the highest complaint category, were improper search or seizure or Fourth Amendment allegations. Last month in October, we received 3 officer-involved shooting notifications, and we also concluded 66 total investigations. Approximately 30% of those contained at least one sustained finding. We were also very busy with respect to community engagement last month. We were out in 29 different community engagement events spread across the city, hearing from Chicagoans about their vision for a safer city and what community safety and public safety looks like for each and every one of them, and the integral role that institutions like the police board, the Inspector General's office, and my organization also play in the broader public safety and accountability system. And actually, last week I had a unique opportunity to attend one such public meeting myself in the 22nd District in Mount Greenwood. It was a local district council meeting, and I was invited there to speak and answer questions, frankly, to a community whose hearts have been broken by recent events and the loss of a Chicago police officer, but also a community that wants to understand better the work of COPA, the work that we do every day in receiving citizen complaints, conducting our investigations, and making our recommendations. So staff joined me in that. My first deputy, who's here tonight, was also present along with our new director of mediation. And we were able to engage in a really meaningful dialogue with approximately 20 to 30 members of the community for about an hour and a half, just answering questions, making sure that people have the full context of the picture of the work that we do at COPA, as opposed to what they may read in a headline or in something on social media. And so we always welcome the opportunity to further explain the importance of our work and also the reflection of what our entire body of work stands for. So data and numbers and transparency around that work, those things are all important, but sometimes just having that conversation, even a difficult one, is some of the most effective way, I think, to really share the message about what accountability is, what it isn't, and the role that we play in trying to also make sure that Chicago is a safe place for its many residents. So I appreciate the opportunity to come every month to this police board and do something similar, and would always welcome anyone that's here from the public or on the board that has any sort of community engagement event that they think would benefit from having either myself or other representatives from COPA participate in. please, we're open to your invitation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Administrator Kirsten, for that report. At this time, I would now like to call upon members of the public who've signed up to speak. And as I do before every public comment session, I would just ask that in order so that we can accommodate everyone who signed up to speak, that you would limit your speaking time to our 2-minute practice. My vice president will be keeping time, so if you hear something go off, it is just the timer. So with that being said, the first individual who has signed up to speak is Ms. Trinell Brewer-Moore. Is Ms. Brewer-Moore here? If not, the next person to speak is Ms. Cece Edwards.
Good evening, board members, and Chief Talley, thank you so much for our Midnight Circus. We really appreciate your support of the Chicago Police Department. I wanted to thank you personally. Also, I also want to give my condolences to the Chicago Police Department. We were in force at the 6th District when Officer Martinez was tragically killed, and it was very emotionally moving. I videotaped it. It was just something. I mean, the public and the community came out in force. We love our officers. We support our officers. We know that you have the toughest job in the city to protect us, and we want to make sure that you're there for us, and we want to make sure that we're there for you. I also want to say that we also support Commander Tate and also our Alderman Harris quest to get Happy Liquors closed. It has I lived in the community all my life since I was 4. So having said that, Happy Liquors has been in business for 30 years, okay? And during those 30 years that it's been there, it has done absolutely nothing for the community. It has become a very deleterious, high crime area, and Commander Tate discovered through his stats that since it's been closed, 70% reduction in crime. That tells us a lot. That tells us it has to be closed. We have other interested parties in our community who have done an amazing job on 79th Street who want to purchase the property. So we're hoping that we can keep it closed. It is closed tonight. It has been. I've been going by. It's been closed. However, we do know that there was another incident on the southwest side where a person was killed and in a bar. It was in a bar. And while the BACP investigators were inside writing tickets, and this occurred. So they want that closed too. And the alderman over there wants it closed. So we do want to see how the law department, BACP is going to handle this, how we want to make sure that our support continues for the closure of Happy Liquors. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Edwards. The next individual signed up to speak is Ms. Krista Noel.
Good evening, everybody. How are you tonight? Good. Hey, so first I want to start by saying that as one of the organizations, Women's All Points Bulletin, that sued the city for the consent decree, the first thing, foremost, that we said was that we wanted the Chicago police to stop killing us. And when you see stats where you see line after line of what they're not doing, I want to make sure that you understand what they are doing. When I started this work in 2009, they were killing double digits. They killed 23 people one year. That is half the amount of people in the entire United States that were executed. This is an extrajudicial killing force, okay? So I want to be very clear that the last few years, they have killed 2, and at this year right now, they're at 3. Dexter and Curtis, we considered unjustified. I want to say this because I want to be very clear. We care about the sanctity of everybody's life. everybody's life. So I'm not standing here saying that I don't feel for every single police officer who's not only been killed on the street, but has committed suicide. I feel for you. But I'm gonna say something. If any one of you all were killed, I would feel the same way about your death that I feel about a police officer's death. I'm not gonna put anybody's death over anybody else's, okay? And I wanna be very clear. We got a community that's getting killed left and right, and I would love to see a flag hoisted up for one of the members of the community. Just one, just one. So let me be very clear. I feel it, I feel it. I myself have been in situations where police officers have saved my life. So I sure as hell don't want to see a police officer die. But any one of y'all, you ain't police officers except on the end. If any one of you all died, I'd feel the same way. And I just want to let you know that. With that being said, the last thing, I support Andrea Kirsten in her position as administrator at COPA. She's done good work. This bousha going on with Dexter Reed and her employees and CCPSA getting involved in something that has to do with her administration is ridiculous. So I stand by her as a member of the Chicago Consent Decree Coalition. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next individual who signed up to speak is Mr. Robert Terry.
Hello, my name is Robert Terry. I'm disabled. I lost two friends at the murder at 79th and 7828 Southwestern at J.J. Fish. Two of my friends were murdered at point blank range, shot in the head by the manager of the J.J. Fish. So I've been protesting. So on November 14th, I was attacked at 3:15 p.m. at the same address, 7828 Southwestern. The two men attacked me. I believe them to be the owners of the J.J. Fish. I was punched in the face. Then my cell phone was taken out of my hand. I received several more punches to my left arm and ribs. I did not fight back. My cell phone was transferred to the female employee there. She took it into the restaurant. They called the police and filed a false report on me. I told the police officer that I was attacked and my cell phone was taken. The report number is JH507798. Okay. I was then given my cell phone back by the police, and when I got my cell phone back, I noticed my videos were erased, but I was able to pull them up out of the recycle bin. So I have the video of that, and what was I see? I then went to the emergency room and tried to make a police report. They told me I couldn't make a police report, that a detective was supposed to call me. So they never called me. So the next day, November 15th, I called for a detective to try to make a police report. And they said I couldn't make a police report because I was the assailant on this false report. And then I came here to get a copy of this false report. November 6th, and I called again for a detective. Again, I was ignored. Okay, November 20th, I talked to Nikki's, the restaurant across the street, 7829 Southwestern, and they told me he confirmed the video. They have it on video at that restaurant. The owner said that, so he told me I had to go to the police station first. So he went to 78th and Halsted, and there I talked to the lady there. No detective was assigned yet, and she told me to call 911 when I go to the restaurant the next morning because they close at 3 o'clock. So I called 911 at 1 o'clock today, 1:30, 2:16, and 2:45 to try to get an officer just to look at the video so I can make a police report against this assault upon me. I was ignored. The video at McDonald's, at the Nicky's, at the CJ will all confirm my video that I have on my phone, that I was attacked. But there's a false report saying that I was the assailant. So I'm here to ask for help. I want to ask if I can get a detective to look into this for me, if that's possible. Thank you.
Yes, so thank you for coming, Mr. Terry. If you stick around to the end of the police board meeting, I'm sure that Chief Talley or one of her officers will be happy to
Thank
speak
you.
with you. Thank you. The next individual I'd like to call to speak is Miss Victoria Robinson. Is Ms. Robinson here? If not, Pastor Boyle is the next individual who signed up to speak.
Good evening. For the record, DOYLELAN, D as in David, RY, United States Marine Corps veteran. So I am the first African American to deliver the Beverly Review. My family integrated Beverly when it was different. And I want that to hang there because on page 4, coincidentally, is the very subject about COPA that I thought both the president of the board and the chief administrator would like to at least have a copy of. So, and I didn't author it, I just felt it was appropriate. With that being said, are we remembering Mrs. Rosa? See, the mother of Officer Enrique Martinez is whom I'd like to focus on this evening, because watching her on Monday do the unthinkable, put her child in the ground and walk away. Sometimes we get personal about police murders, and often we forget the mother who did not bring her child to earth to be murdered. So I'd like for us to be thinking about that this Thanksgiving holiday, because what exactly does Mrs. Rosa have to be grateful for this Thanksgiving? Because pain is deep, not birthing pain, but burial pain, especially when you didn't plan for it. So if we put agendas aside and think about Mrs. Rosa, because a month ago, her child was alive. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. The next speaker who has signed up to speak is Miss Tiara, I think it's Conway? Or
Yes, it's Tiara.
Tiara. Sorry.
How you guys doing today? My name is Tiara Conway. I'm here to speak about one of my loved ones who is wrongfully detained. He's been detained for over 2 years in the Cook County Jail due to the police, Officer Miguel Anderson and Kevin Korn, planting a weapon on him. How corrupt could you be to charge a person with an aggravated unlawful use of a weapon and a gun possession when Mr. Banks never had a gun in his possession? How corrupt could you be to be boldly to do this on your body cam and to turn around and falsify the whole report? How boldly could you lie on your police report and state that you forced entry into someone's house and you have on body cam someone opening up the door for you? These people that y'all hiring, they are criminals too. They need to be held accountable at a higher standard. These people are trained. These people you guys train and send on the streets to serve and protect us. We're scared for our life just as well as them. It's 4 police officers coming to a parked car lying stating that you're pulling a car over that's already parked on camera. This is the only group of organized criminals that I know that commit crimes without any penalties. These prosecutors, these judges, and these lawyers need to be held accountable for this. We need systems in place to prevent prosecutorial misconduct. We need more oversight on these criminals, I just want to know, what do you guys do when you have a case that lacks probable cause, violates the defendant rights, prosecutorial misconduct, and insufficient evidence? What do you do when you have a case like that? What do you do when you have a case where you catch a defendant and you ask the defendant, why did they run for you? And he tell you, I'm scared for my life. You guys are killing me. And then you write in your police report that this man admitted to having a gun and he carried it for protection. That's not a mistake you can do. We have on body cam the officer telling Mr. Banks, we will see what happened when you get 30 years. This is unacceptable. I need all of you guys to please look into this case. Mr. Banks is sitting there. They only come in with pleas. I have body cam that I will release to the public, even the police report. I even have a case summary that have an order to keep this man in jail. For what?
Thank you, Ms. Conway. Seeing no other speakers, I would now ask to make a motion to adjourn this month's meeting. All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye. Aye. Hearing all ayes and seeing all hands raised, the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you very much.